Hey guys, sorry for the little delay there. It's been almost 2 weeks, I think, maybe 2 weeks, give or take, since I got back to you guys. Did a talking head video. Sorry, but I had to put my memes where my mouth was. Said we got to rebuild the New Vegas community. I had to make some New Vegas memes. First one was a bit of a doozy, but it did far better than the Dracula Flow one. But maybe YouTube's censoring it. So if you want to see that, check that out on my channel. I'd like to see that pop off. That was put like 12 hours into that because I don't know what I'm doing. So go have a look. It may or may not be your taste, but if you like Dracula Flow or ever heard of him, I think you'll get a kick out of it. Or if you have New Vegas skills autism like I do, that's an option too. Excuse me, I'm so excited. Got ahead of myself. But today's subject, we're gonna veer away from New Vegas just a little bit. I mean, kinda, sorta. I mean, I don't know. It feels like all the fandoms blend together at this point in the internet. Look at this glow, this radiant glow. I didn't do that. That's the sun pouring in these windows. A nice day. Apparently, there's like an apocalyptic level storm coming to my area. So, if you don't see me for a while, or see a post for a while, it's probably just a power outage or internet outage or both. But I'll be back. No need to worry. In any case, yeah, Warhammer 40K. So there's like a new controversy about it, I guess. But I feel like I've been seeing a new controversy every few years. Like I'm just like, I'm not trying to LARP as an old man. I'm 28. I'm a Zoomer. You know what I mean? But like since I was like 16 years old, I feel like there's always been a controversy like every 2 years or less in Warhammer 40K. And it's like if you're really sick of it, just stop buying it. Like I mean, and I mean like I don't mean that like that sounds like I'm defending Games Workshop. I mean, I remember 2020 playing Hold Fast Nations at War, and some guys were like saying for the Emperor, some like generic kind of like, like I don't mean to diss these guys, but some for lack of a better worm, like lack of a better worm, that's a nice Coreyism from Oni Plays if you ever watched that, but they were doing whatever like touristy lines from Warhammer 40K. And I don't say that to insult them. I'm sure guys just have fun. Don't like be so insecure about everything you say. But I did it at one point too. I think I was just like 13, not 23. In either case, um, so these guys were doing like 40K lines, and I remember just being like so mad at 40K at the time. And I was just like, Games Workshop doesn't deserve your love, guys. I'm like, you find a different fandom. I'm like, just leave them behind. And I remember feeling that way in 2020. And I can't remember exactly why at that point I was upset. I don't know if Hammer and Bolter was out yet. I definitely didn't watch it, but I saw some clips and, not impressed. But I mean, just their litigiousness, legally and on fan projects goes way back. I remember I played this one video game. It was a mod, I think, or like a Source Engine game. I don't know if it was built from the ground up or if it was a mod for Half-Life 2. But I remember being like 17 years old, so that would have been like 2014, and I was playing. I think it was called Exterminatus, and it was Tyranids versus your choice of Space Marines, and it was like a 5v5 or 10v10 Source Engine type first person shooter. You could play as like Zoanthropes, and I think that was the class to play as if you're a Tyranid. Then you could play as all different kinds of Space Marines. Devastator kicked ass. So, like, I love that, and I don't know if it's up anymore or what, but I know that Games Workshop just, they sniff something like that out like Bloodhounds, and they're going to dig it up and take it down. I remember Chapter Master was another fan game I played. I don't know if the dev gave up on it or if Games Workshop nuked it. I'm not really sure, but, either way, it ultimately doesn't matter. I know that sounds ultra sensitive, but, like, if Games Workshop just kind of, picks a guy at random and hangs him, then all the guys that kind of meet that description, they don't want to do that anymore. And I never watched like Space King or anything like that, but like a bunch of people are like, oh well, you'd love that if you feel that way, but I just haven't seen it yet. But anyway, I remember loving Warhammer 40K the most around 2013, 2014, and there's this thing called 1D4chan, and I'm not gonna act like I was a member of the community. I only lurked it, but I remember it being like the best 40K wiki. Like it was mostly like it went outside of Warhammer 40K, and I didn't really touch that. Outside of like one really entertaining article called Car Lesbians, I thought that was pretty funny. Just a role playing game. I think based on Need for Speed Most Wanted. But that's all I'll say about that because I don't know anything more. But there was funny stuff there. It was a funny wiki, and I think it's gone now. I went looking for it like 2 years ago, and I'm pretty sure it's gone. But that's what made me like the Lamenters most as a faction, because it was almost like the community wiki. I'm sure there's several, but like I said, I don't know. I'm not gonna act like I know everything. I didn't do the deep dive. This isn't down the rabbit hole. I'm not Frederick Knudsen. I don't. I'm not like a deep researcher. I don't know. I'll tell you what I saw. I'll tell you how I remembered it. But to me, that was the best wiki for 40k. I honestly didn't care too much for the official. Like, obviously, I cared about canon because even like I think like one of the biggest things to come out of 1D4chan, if it even came out of 1D4chan, was the Angry Marines. And even during that time, even at like the height of my interest in 40k, I kind of found them annoying. I did download the codex though because I was a collector. But in any case, I was just like, okay. But I'm pretty sure the Angry Marines were kind of more like 2004 to 2007 internet than they were that kind of 2012 to 2015 internet. If you can even, if that's even fair lines to break it up into, and I may be totally wrong on that, but I'm just saying the humor fit an older internet, which I just wasn't really a part of. I mean, like I said, me using the internet prior to 2009 was only to go on Cheat Code Central, which I'm not sure if that's a good website. I don't know if I ruined any computers or not, but probably. I didn't. I didn't. I've just kind of fumbled my way through life to get to this point, and I'm accepting that at this age. But anyway, it's the main point. Warhammer 40k. Like, there's going to be a controversy every few years because it's a company trying to make money. And companies, once they're like, yeah, we got an army of loyal diehards, that doesn't matter, they're there, they love everything we make, they viciously defend it, they can't stop referencing it in YouTube comments. Whatever the fandom is, I'm not even talking 40k, though 40k is a strong contender, up there with like 2017 JoJo fans. There's 40 cans in any 40 cans, 40k fans. There we go. But 40k fans in like any time period just seem to be like so like especially on message boards. It's just so aggressively referencing it, and I'm sure I was one of those people at one point. I mean, you're probably wondering, be like, well, what skin do you have in 40k? You never put up 40k content. What'd you do? Play one of the games? Did you play Space Marine 2? No, I played Space Marine 1 when it came out, and that was the beginning of my interest. But I also had a Lamenter's army. I had a 1700 point Lamenter's army. Wasn't really vehicle heavy, but I got really into the 3D printed cheater Lamenter pauldrons. So it made really clean. If you're familiar with Warhammer 40k Lamenter pauldrons, if you look them up, I don't really want to edit videos, but this would be maybe when I start referencing pictures, I should start looking them up and putting them on screen. So we'll experiment with that right now. On screen is a Lamenter pauldron, and this is very hard to paint at the size that it is. And I did a few. I raw dogged a couple of them with mixed results. I don't have pictures because I sold them to a local game store when I moved. I know, pretty lame. And I did have pictures at one point, even with a white screen, taken with the camera I'm using now. I just got rid of them. I put them all in a gun case. I sold them for like $150, like $700 worth of Space Marines or more. Just gross. But Any case, well, I guess the full 1700 points didn't count because I also used I'm pretty sure I used Bioshock action figures as knights. Uh, and here's the thing. I guess at the end of the day, I really am a poser because I never played a single game. And I'm sure most of the Warhammer 40k community is probably the same way. I painted a ton of models. I painted a ton of official models. I didn't paint a ton of unofficial models. I made my own unofficial models and not just like kit bash because I know that's mostly cool. But I mean, like, I took like parts of action figures, parts of like other model kits, and I'd make like like an orc, Blackhawk, or like it didn't really make any sense in retrospect, but I think I had a different idea of what the Dark Eldar were, and I made like a Dark Eldar Apache, like a black helicopter. I guess at the time I had like more of like Dark Eldar are like Men in Black, but like Deus Ex Men in Black, not Men in Black, Men in Black. But obviously they're Dark Eldar, they're Dark Elves. I didn't have a good understanding of fantasy settings at the time outside of Skyrim, but I was also like 18 at that time, and all I did was just paint 40k models with whatever money I could get. It was a bad time too economically. I should have been spending my money way differently, but it was my only happiness, so that's what I did. But moving on, opinions on it. I remember on 1D4chan them having a huge issue, and this is in the year like, we'll just say 2015 for reference, them still being mad about Matt Ward, which, and like I said, I'm shooting from the hip severely right now. I believe he essentially kind of moved the Ultramarines from these are like the kind of like every man do it all sort of like, hey, we kind of collect the whatever you want to call it, the spillover of all the other legions. So we got a little bit of everybody here, and it's just kind of like a do everything blank slate legion. I'm pretty sure Matt Ward was responsible for turning them into like the sort of Mary Sue character. And if I'm wrong on that, then I do believe he's the guy who introduced Grey Knights, who are a Mary Sue faction. Let's just be real about it. If you're a Grey Knight defender, I get it because they've been out for so long. But like, okay. So like, I guess let's get to the modern controversy. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. What I'm getting at is people back then were mad about a decision in 2005. People in 2015 were mad about a 40K decision in 2005. That's the point I'm trying to make there. You fast forward to 2026, people are mad about female custodians. I was mad a few years ago. Maybe that's what I was mad about in 2020, but I don't know if the timeline checks. That they made custodians even playable. Because to me, I mean, like I said, there's so much headcanon going on in the 40K community. Maybe that's why nobody's happy. But my understanding is that like custodians were untouchable. They're too godlike for any battlefield, and they're the reason why Terra will never fall. And maybe custodian players are like, and that is the reason I buy the propaganda. It's like, well, no, when you make it a miniature, you mortalize it. And some would argue you immortalize it because it's art, and that's sort of a meta statement. But no, I mean, instead, in setting, if you give me the potential for like a grot to kill you, or even just an orc chopper or something like that, an orc anything to kill a custodian. Let's be real here. And before anybody cites books at me, I mean, I can't deify the fiction anymore. I tried reading the Horus Heresy and it sucks. I made it 3 books into the Horus Heresy and I was like, this is like the golden calf of the 40K series. This is like the untouchable lore. Even 1D4chan, which I found to be pretty realistic, grounded, and funny more than anything. They were like, oh yeah, this is like god tier writing, especially like anything from I think Graham McNeil, and there was a few other writers that they were cool with. Obviously, they're not cool with Matt Ward. And if I was totally wrong, if I'm saying the wrong word with Matt Ward, totally apologize. Then I believe they're referring to CS Gato. I remember that being another name they hated. And like I said, it's like, what is this video? You're remembering what people said on a community wiki 11 years. Look, I don't know, man. You clicked on the video. This is my style. But it's like how will they move the needle next when it comes to Warhammer 40K? And that's kind of why I dipped out of the hobby. I mean, it's prohibitively expensive. That's the main reason I dipped out of the hobby. I mean, you're in a relationship and 40K. Ooh, it's just like, man, it's like it's hard to do that, I mean, maybe it's just a rich man's hobby and maybe that's what it's meant to be, and I'm not a rich guy. I never was. There was a point in my life where I could put all my disposable income into it, so I could have fun with it. But I'm not in that position anymore. I can't really do it. And I think I got bitter about 40K for a long time. I can totally admit that. I think I got bitter about it because I couldn't participate. And because I saw them doing goofy things. Like now they got Space Dwarves. And that's like, I remember that. That's not a new development at all. But I was like, oh, come on. That's a blatant cash grab. So they're going to keep doing cash grabs. Like, I guess like, Tyranid cultists, they were a pretty cool addition, I thought. And the Mechanicus armies, I thought they were a cool addition. But even some of the units for the Mechanicus, I'm like, what are these guys? Like, I like monk-like characters, and I get that they're like cyber monks, but like, this is a little too literal. These guys are like Shaolin monks with like Tesla coil, like bow staves. I don't know the word. I thought that was goofy, but like not enough to like throw away the series over it. But when custodians became playable, I was like, all right, come on. Like literally, to me, if you were to like put a custodian in any media, it had better play like bolt gun with God mode on. Like to me, or is it Bolter or Bolt Gun, the Doom mod that's essentially they sold for full price that I bought a couple years ago. Because I like it. I like boomer shooters. I don't even like the term boomer shooters. I still like Doom Clone, but I'm not a boomer. I'm not gonna try to pretend to be too hard. But you get what I mean. If you played the game, that's like the hardest enemies are Archviles. It's essentially a Doom mod. I've played a ton of Doom mods. I've played some that I don't want to say had more effort because I don't know what goes into making a game, but certainly I don't know, of similar quality. But I like Bolt Gun. I'm not trying to say anything about it. Just expensive for what it was. Maybe the license is most of that. I don't know. But that with God mode and with like way cooler weapons than a Space Marine would even be allowed to touch. He'd have his hands cut off, his gene seeds sucked out for touching. Like, I thought that's how above custodian Space Marines were. And then they had like Henry Cavill or Henry Cavill. He's out there and he's like, ah, actually, I enjoy 40K, and he's painting custodians, and I'm like, you don't like 40K? I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, you don't love it like I love it. You would never buy that slop. And then, there's diehard 40K fans that are like, oh, I love that custodians are playable, or maybe they're a custodian main. Like I said, I never played the game. I played Space Hulk. I played the Kill Team game. I played the Officio Assassinorum Kill Team, I believe it was called. I bought that. And I played games of that at the game store, but I never played like legit 40K a campaign. Played Dungeons and Dragons that are 40K themed essentially with a group of people one time, but I never like which I guess is what's that, Rogue Trader or Inquisitor essentially. But so 40K, it's well, what do I feel like you're either with it or against it, and that's going to be the stance that Games Workshop always has. And I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying, like, you either have to shut your brain off, ignorance is bliss, you like Space Marines. You become an extremist like me, like I am with Fallout New Vegas, where I disavow anything Fallout outside of Fallout New Vegas. And I've made that statement in the video where I'm wearing a prison jumpsuit. But like that's because that's my cope. I'll be upfront with you. That's my cope for the Fallout series. Is like, well, this is the one game that I'll die on a hill. It's the best one, and I love it, and it's not going anywhere, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to keep enjoying it, and I'll keep making content for it. That's my cope. You could do that with 40K. Like, I like the Lamenters, but like 10 years later, I see him as kind of more of like a crybaby faction. No disrespect to the Lamenters, I loved them with all my heart for a while, but now today, I like something a little bit more interesting, like thinking about getting into like Plague Marines, just because they have like a really cool model. If I were to ever get into the painting the models again, I like Plague Marines. They have a cool design, but like, I don't know, the lore is just it didn't age as well for me. Like, it's not the high art that I thought it was when I was a kid, because of all the Baroque style art, which I think is my favorite part. Sans being totally unrealistic. Hold on, let me make sure it's still recording here. My camera did something funny. Oh, okay, we're good. I don't know why it just twitched. Some Masada activity there. But yeah, back to 40K. I just feel like there's so much headcanon. There's so many voices coming from so many directions. There's Games Workshop being a greedy company, but not just a greedy company, like an infamously litigious greedy company that insists on putting out like their own version of what the community is already doing. Like, that's, at least Bethesda knows to just kind of like, put in the doorstop for modders and be like, here you go, guys. Games Workshop was just never cool with that on an official level. And like I said, I've been out of touch. I haven't been following it. I used to like go on like blogs and stuff and follow like Warhammer 40K news on a daily basis. I've been out of the game for a while, but this is like, okay, opinions on it as somebody who effectively left it because of Games Workshop's decisions 10 years ago, probably, if not more. No, 10 years ago, I'd say I was out. I was still like, I picked up a few Eldar characters and I was painting them, and then just eventually the money just ran out. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Got into dating. And that's not to disparage people that are in the 40K. It's just it's the raw money cost. I'm not saying like I'm not doing like one of those dry jokes about like League of Legends players. Never played League of Legends, by the way, but like, or like, it's like, oh, League of Legends, and then it's like I don't know, that one guy swelling into like this red mass. If you know the meme I'm talking about, that's my sense of humor at this point. Did you see the same GIF I did, or GIF? I say GIF at this point. I don't know why. I was like diehard for GIF for a while. Now GIF just floats out. That's weird. But I guess the brain's elastic. It changes with time. But with 40K, I've just kind of thrown up my hands with it. I've, I like the beaky design. I never liked that term, but the Mark 6 Corvus power armor, I think, is the best thing to come out of 40K. I think that's timelessly good. I think the regular helmet, I don't know if that's Mark 5 or Mark 7 or what, but, whatever. And then the Primaris shit, I don't really care for. Maybe I messed up by just saying the S word, so maybe we'll try a censor on that too. I don't know. I don't know what YouTube wants. We're trying it out, though. We're going to try to do what Games Workshop did. I'm going to try to go from, like, punk rock to semi-mainstream to full mainstream, and then I'm going to, like, alienate all of you. No, I'm kidding. I would... No, that's an extremely arrogant thing to say. There's a lot of people, I think, who've said it, like, fake ironically, kidding, not kidding. But no, I keep doing my thing, but, I gotta... If YouTube's just gonna like put it in a box and not show anybody, I mean that doesn't really do any good for anybody either. So I don't know. We'll work on it. Maybe we throw in a little bit of editing, but I don't want to get crazy with it. I like the raw style for the most part. So we'll throw in the picture of the Lamenter pauldron. Maybe we'll try a little boop on that that shit I threw out back there. So there's another. But I feel like I had like a more like I feel like I had a shower thought about 40K that I wanted to share with you guys that just like isn't coming out now. I guess it's just, I think companies don't like respect certain fandoms. I think like gamers as a whole is definitely like a bigger one, and you can make bigger, more nuanced statements about that. But 40K specifically, because the community always complains big and then also buys big. So what does the company take from that? The complaints mean nothing. And that's the same thing with Bethesda games. That's the same thing with, games in general, people who buy, microtransactions, all of it. You can make that same statement over and over. It's like, yeah, we bitch for days till the cows come home. But then gamers as a buying lobby, which is what they're really looking at, they're just considering the thoughts and complaints lobby, the buying lobby, the voting with your wallet, as they say, the cliche statement. It shouldn't be a cliche, it should be common knowledge, but like vote with your wallet. But people won't do it. They'll keep buying 40K video games, they'll keep buying 40K models, they'll just keep doing it because they're like, well, I don't like what's going on now, but I like 40K. I want to be with the community. It's like, yeah, I understand wanting to have community. I'm lonely as hell. I totally get wanting to have community and not wanting to like upset your peers. But it's just like, if you don't like the direction a thing is going, I think traditionally through history, you and your boys, you and your posse would be like, all right, this sucks. Let's get into something new. These movies suck now. We're up to like the 13th movie in this series. We're not seeing them anymore. The last Pac-Man sucked. I don't know, whatever. I never even really played Pac-Man outside of the Game Boy Advance. I'm throwing stuff out there. I'm saying in the past, if something started to rot like this, if something started to stink, and the community is calling it out this hard, people would walk away from it. But people like want to be part of something. They like want to feel like a voter in a company. And I feel like gamers act like that. And I mean, I'm saying this because I used to feel this way too. Like with Bethesda games, I was so heartbroken when I saw that like Fallout 76 was in the state it was in at release. And like Todd Howard's answer was something to the effect, I can't remember at the time, he's like, well, they didn't like it, but we'll try out, we'll get them with Starfield. And then Starfield was what it was. And I was thinking, and I was an idiot. I was like, I'm not buying Starfield. And then I bought it because I'm like, what if they really did sacrifice Fallout on the altar of Starfield? And what if it's really better than all the Fallouts? And it wasn't. So, that's what I get though. I voted with my wallet and I voted for Starfield because I trusted it. Because I saw a video on YouTube of like a guy saying sarcastically, like, people say Starfield runs bad. Let me run through 100 watermelons in zero gravity to show you how good it runs. Not mentioning my computer probably costs as much as like a tank in a third world country. But, well, that was a little bit more of my, we got a little bit more into the bitter side of me there. That's what we got to do. That's the power of straight edge. I think I'm a little too happy-go-lucky on the caffeine and on the caffeine. Yeah, I got to call out every voice crack I have because then no one else can. This self-deprecating armor. So I'm sorry I don't have much to say on the current state of 40K. I guess what I'm saying is if you're shocked, you're new to the scene, man. I've been out of the scene, and I'm like, yeah, they're going to keep doing that to you over and over and over again. Go buy another kit. I came close to buying a kit. I was like, man, some of these plague kits, some of these Slanesh kits, they rock. Of course I'm a chaos guy. I was, when I had the morally grandstand as a teenager, as a vegan teenager, I picked Lamenters. I picked the blood drinkers of all people, the secret blood drinkers. I didn't cheat on being a vegan though back then. But yeah, anyway, yeah, that can be a subject for another time. I'm not anymore, obviously. I'm a chicken farmer now. I'm not a vegan. But yeah, we're going all over the place with this video. Let's see how much we got, because I hate like talking for 4 minutes only to find out that like the camera cut. It's like that meme of like, yo, you been on mute on Discord. Patrick on one side of the wall, or not Patrick, Squidward and SpongeBob. That's a fun thought that's not big enough for a video, but I thought about it when I was sitting on the couch. What if like Squidward was an anti-clarinet psyop? Huh? I'm listening to the beautiful music of Fallout, and I'm like, what is that instrument? And I asked my fiance, I'm like, you hear that? And she's like, oh, that's, I think that's a clarinet. And I'm like, oh, see, that's beautiful. You never hear that in music anywhere anymore. You never hear a clarinet in anything. And like funny enough, like I remember there was like one kid that did clarinet in school, and like we all picked on him for it because we're like, Squidward, you know, he's Squidward ass, clarinet having ass. So we didn't talk like that back then, but you know what I mean. Um, so I was just thinking that, like, I'm not being serious, but I was just thinking, like, man, what if some dude hated the clarinet and he's like, I'm putting it in the children's programming, that the clarinet sucks, it's the new spinach. Just an idea I had. Not big enough for a video. Maybe big enough for a brainless short. I really don't like making those. I've already made an edit of the Dracula flow and of the weird Fiends Great Cons edit I made in like a couple hours in a weird mood. But I've already made shorts edits of them, but I haven't uploaded it because like shorts are weird to me. I don't know. I prefer old school YouTube. I prefer old internet. I'm set in my ways. That's how I am now. I'm already set in my ways. The calcification already happened. The pineal gland stuck in 2007. I can't get out. But I think I should end on that note. I'm gonna get some more videos out to you guys soon. I've been busy lately. I've been going through some stuff, so you know, if I make memes, it's because I'm feeling introverted. If I'm making talking head videos, I'm feeling a little bit more outgoing. So you know, it's a little gauge into my mind, or a little lens. I think is the right word. Either way, it's glass panels. Glass panel synonyms. I'm heading out. I love you guys so much. Thank you to everybody who's recently subscribed. Thank you to everybody who's continued to stay subscribed despite my erraticism, my erratic behavior. Erraticism sounds too much like eroticism. We won't say that, even though we name dropped Slanesh earlier. It's a 40K video after all. I'm leaving. I'll see you guys. For people who clicked on this video hoping it was just going to be like a 40K lore drop, 30 minutes of it, sorry I couldn't give you that. I'm not those guys that do that. That's just, this is my style. All right, see you.